from all over the world. So I will start with the few questions First questions for the Honorable Minister of Culture and Tourism. This one is coming from Shaibu Husseini in Lagos. He said, Honorable Minister, you declared on AIT on Saturday that the National Theatre will not be concessioned, and in another breath says it will be handled under a build, operate and transfer policy. Is that not also a form of concessioning? Still for the Honorable Minister of Culture, this is coming from a cultural stakeholder here in Abuja. He said, at the 2012 Ministerial platform, you claim that your ministry had acquired the Ile Ona Museum in Aribiji. It was later discovered that this was not quite so. What is the correct situation, Honorable Minister? Ile Ona Museum. And for the Honorable Minister of Aviation, Honorable Minister, there is this allegation that airlines in Nigeria now overcharge passengers to stay in business, that they break airfares down into fake components, including fuel surcharge, which is regarded as a trick designed to make passengers pay more. Are you aware of this? This one is coming from one Kabir Rano in Kano. He said, Honorable Minister of Justice, we have been coming to your office constantly to demonstrate over the detention of Major Al-Mustafa, who has been in detention for long now, but you have not given us audience. Please, sir, what are you doing to ensure that this man is released? He has overstayed in detention. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I will now call on my colleague to please come forward and ask some of the questions he has. Yaya Umar.
Thank you. Quickly, I've been asked to recognize the presence of National Gallery of Arts, Mr. Abdullahi Muku, the Director General. Mr. Abdullahi Muku, you're welcome. National Institute for Cultural Orientation, Executive Secretary, Dr. Bartley Sayakoroma, you're most welcome, sir. Now moving on, questions for the Minister of Culture and Tourism, National Orientation. What are you doing to utilize ethnic diversity of our nation for national growth? Eze Victor Chidoze from Udi in Enugu State. The second question from APK Alaba via SMS. Tourism is known as a major source of revenue generation and provider of employment. What is your practical approach to tap into this burgeoning industry in Nigeria? Moving on, for the Honorable Minister of Justice, what is your ministry doing towards reviving obsolete laws in the country? Take for instance, a man who stole a GSM telephone set of a rich man was sentenced to 45 years in jail, while those who embezzled billions of naira were sentenced to 1 or 2 years in jail. Which way forward, sir? From Celestine Bako in Austria, via email. Moving on, one more question for the Honorable Minister of Justice. Please, can you tell Nigerians why Bakassi issue was not pursued despite the evidence provided by Cross River? What have you done to prosecute corrupt legislators in this context? Ibe in Calabar. And finally, for the Aviation Minister, please can Port Harcourt be included in the first phase of the Aerotropolis project? That's from Lady T by SMS. And finally, the Honorable Minister Ma, during the unveiling of the cenotaph in Lagos by the governor. Somebody said that up until now, his family has not been paid the compensation of the loss of his mother in the Dana airline crash. What is the step your ministry is taking to see that those who are entitled for payments get paid? Thank you. Basi Anil Fiok. Basi from Cross River State. Thank you. Let's move on.
Okay, I will invite 3 questions only from the floor. Yes, the lady out there, come quick. Only 3 questions today. Is there anybody in the middle here? Yes, come. Is there anybody here? Nobody? At the extreme? Okay, come, that's all. Go ahead.
My name is Gloria Renga. I'm from the Nigerian Film Corporation. And my question will be to the Minister of Culture and Tourism. It's about Nollywood.
Face the cameras.
All right. My question is to the Minister of Culture and Tourism, and the question is about Nollywood. It's about the money that Mr. President has given to Nollywood. I was just wondering, sir, if you're a producer, how can you access those funds?
Thank you. Next. Next.
My name is Harry Agena. I'm with Media Against Indiscipline. My question is for the Minister of Aviation. The first time I saw this, there's an anomaly at the Lagos airport that is very embarrassing. Because the first time...
Face the cameras.
Face camera. So why is it that we have an airport that people cannot enter the lounge to welcome visitors from outside or from anywhere? It's the only airport in the world, I've traveled around, it's the only airport in the world that that citizens cannot enter the airport. And yet, the reason for sending citizens out, I understand, was due to touts. But if you go inside the airport now, you see touts inside the lounge, but you don't see Nigerian citizens is there. Okay, why is it so?
Thank you. Next, please.
I'm Oduah from a non-governmental organization, KDMI. My question is to the Honourable Minister of Aviation. Ma, what are you doing about the local content initiative of the ministry, especially the Fly Nigeria Act, which compels ministers and public officials who earn their resources from the national treasury flying Nigerian and domestic airlines abroad? This will save us a lot of capital flights. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. May I now invite the Attorney General and Honorable Minister of Justice to please come and respond to the questions raised in his sector. Honorable Minister.
Thank you. I'm most obliged. I think I will take the issue of Bakassi, considering how sensitive that issue is. Let me say that I sympathize with the people of Cross River State and Bakassi in particular, that the judgment of the International Court of Justice ceded away that part of our land to Cameroon. Be that as it may, the judgment was given sometime in 2002, and there was a 10-year period within, if Nigeria has the opportunity or new facts, to to apply for a review of the judgment based on those new facts, and which comes with certain conditions, and those new facts must not have been available as at the time the matter was heard in court, and also that it was not due to negligence. Barely 3 months to the expiration of the period, some people came up agitating after Bakassi had been given up physically to the Cameroonians in 2008 by the administration of the late President Yaradua, ceded over, and the civilian administration handed over in 2008, that we should appeal the judgment. First, let me clarify that there is nothing like an appeal under the statute of the ICJ. What it calls for is a review based on new evidence. As Attorney General, when we got our request, myself and my team, in consultation with our experts, examined the facts submitted and came to the reasoned conclusions that those facts do not or does not constitute new facts and would amount to embarrassing the country should we go ahead to apply for a review. and knowing fully well that will be ridiculing the country and creating unnecessary socio-political tension within the Pakasi zone with our neighbor Cameroon, we decided that it was not worthwhile. And that is the reason why we did not appeal on Pakasi. On the issue of Major Al-Mustafa, let me say this very clearly, that Major Al-Mustafa was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death under the Lagos state law for committing a stated crime of murder in respect of the late Ajia Kudirat Abiola. The matter is presently at the Court of Appeal. I think his lawyers have argued the appeal and it's been reserved for judgment. As it stands now, the matter is sub judice. I'm not going to go beyond that, but it is not within the competence of the Attorney General as of today, to do anything about it. I'm sure the political authorities might, at a later date, depending on how the case goes, look into it and try to find an amicable solution, if need be. But justice at the moment is taking its course. On the issue of the obsolete laws my friend has complained about, we have in place a justice sector reform committee headed by Justice Bello of the FCT High Court, and he is present. He himself and his team have a period of 24 months within which to look at all these laws, propose the necessary amendment, and then we'll prepare the legislations and then pass them to the National Assembly for appropriate amendment. Well, on the issue of death sentence, it's a very sensitive issue considering the ongoing global debate as of today. However, that debate has not metamorphosized into abolition of death sentences in our laws. And most of the issues involving death sentences are state offenses. We cannot, in operating a federation, impose on the various states how to run their laws. But we'll continue to engage them, we'll continue to partner with them, and continue to see what can be done to make them buy into the issue of abolition. But we know that abolition is a current trend today. However, under the Nigerian law, in our statute and by our constitution, death sentence is recognized. So at the appropriate time when we have the key stakeholders buying in, I think the laws will be reviewed and this will become a thing of the past. Thank you very much.
We thank the Attorney General and Honorable Minister of Justice for those answers. We would now call on the Honorable Minister of Aviation to come and respond to her own side of the questions. Honorable Minister of Aviation.
Thank you very much. I want to start from the Dana accident victim not being able to get their claim. Dana has actually done very well in terms of compensating accident victims. Now, the challenge Dana has is that of multiple claims. When you have multiple claims, it becomes difficult to ascertain who should collect. And until they are able to do that, they will not pay multiple claims and will continue verifying and re-verifying to ascertain who should be the next of kin to claim the money. So that's where we are today. But I think Dana has actually done about 60%. If not more. I don't have the actual figure, but I know we are monitoring them. NCA is doing that, and they've done very well. However, Dana is giving till December. Should they fail to pay completely, we'll have to show they are accelerating the process. Can we make Port Harcourt #1 aerodrome? I think we'll think about it. But it's not our #1 aerodrome for obvious reasons. Passengers flow is very key to us, and so we are doing it strictly objective. My objective would mean that it has to be where indicators are in tandem with the growth paths that we have marshaled out. So if we don't do Port Harcourt as #1, do bear with us. The other question is why are people not allowed to fly in Nigeria based on the act? The challenge is that until we have strong airline operator, i.e. national carrier, you cannot implement the act. So we will implement the act, but we have to first of all do the needful. Number one is to create a very strong national carrier. Two is to ensure that our domestic carriers are very healthy and indeed they are operating in a very standard manner. And I think the other question was, why is it that people are not allowed to go into the lounge and they happen to be Nigerians, but touts? I think touts are also Nigerians, but that's not the question. The question is that the process of renovation is still ongoing. As you see, all the airports were increasing the capacity. That's because we noticed that we must have a larger space for meeters and greeters. And that's where people that go to welcome their loved ones should stay. You're not allowed to go into sanitized area. So you have boundaries where you shouldn't cross, whether it's the lounge or it's not a lounge. When all that is put in place, then everybody should be allowed to come into the airport, again within the boundary that you are allowed to. So if for any reason you are not allowed to get into the lounge, I do apologize. And that's because we are making it better for you. The other question was, why is it that the economic benefit is not, okay, airlines are doing surcharges, and the reason they are doing those surcharges is to stay alive. If you listen carefully on all the presentations, we say that SCA is being strengthened. And one of the reasons why it's being strengthened is for them to have the capacity to do what they have to do. One of them is economic regulation. In recognition of that, we had to create a unit called Economic and Commercial Regulatory Unit. Their responsibility will be to ensure compliance of economic and regulatory policies. In doing so, they will have access to operators' book. They will make sure that operators are financially healthy, because any operator that is financially ill means that they will not be in compliance with aviation rules and regulations. So in that regard, I want to assure you that once the implementation commences, this will not happen. And I'm not sure how that can actually happen now, because within the law, it's not allowed. For any surcharge or increase, NCA has to approve for that to happen. But I've noted your concern, and I will check. If we do have your contact, we will revert to you to tell you what is ongoing. And if it's happening, we will stop it, I assure you. Thank you.
Thank the Aviation Minister for the answers. We would now call on the Culture, Tourism and National Orientation Minister to react to some questions. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. The first question that I have is about the National Theatre. And I'm delighted. It means that people are passionate about the iconic property called the National Theatre. And they're passionate about the need to retain it in the inventory of Nigeria's infrastructure. And that is what is going to happen. What we are saying is that the National Theatre, as a structure that is currently in existence, is not going to be handed over to anybody or any entity. That is the sentiment. But what we are saying as a business proposal is that those areas of the National Theatre that for 40 years we used to deposit human waste, that section of the National Theatre where some people are rearing swines, that section of the National Theatre which is now a swamp harboring reptiles, that section of the National Theatre, which is continuously being used today as an open-air beer parlor. No, those sections will now have to be developed into hotels, into shopping malls, into recreational parks, so that they can draw traffic to the National Theatre, so that they can strengthen the National Theatre. And the sentiment of Nigerians is that that must not be given to one individual person. And that is why we are sentimentally more disposed to a public-private partnership concessioning rather than 100% privatization. And after the concessioning, depending on what the Infrastructural Concessioning Regulatory Commission says, whether they say 25 years or they say 30 years, afterwards it reverts to Nigeria. Whether you have spent 10 billion to develop a hotel, or you have spent 5 billion to develop a resort around the National Theatre, after the period of concessioning, it belongs to Nigeria. That is the route to go. So let us reassure ourselves, and I'm going to leave this with the media. This is the business case for the new National Theatre, so that we can have our own equivalent of Mandela Square, so that we can have our own equivalent of Trafalgar Square, which does not belong to any single individual. It is a legacy facility that enriches all Nigerians. I leave this with the media for purposes of elucidation. On the issue of the 3 billion that Mr. President so generously endowed to Nollywood, I would like to say that in interactions with Nollywood, they have said that their greatest problem is distribution and capacity building and technical competence. And so, the coordinating minister of the economy is coming out with a template to address distribution, to address capacity building, training, and equipment provision. However, for producers, once you have the distribution sorted, once you have the capacity building attended to, then creativity will be left to the market forces. It will strengthen your ability to create and produce, as well as write beautiful scripts. Of course, scripting is also part of capacity building. On the issue of the private museum of Moraina Ali Oyelani, which is in Iragbiji, today as I speak, the Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization, CBAC, as well as the National Commission for Museum and Monuments, are still engaging with the current owners of that private museum to bequeath it as a national legacy. And that is in progress. The MOU is being written. Finally, there was the issue of tapping into tourism practically. We are developing a new brand. We have the master plan which is guiding us, and we are trying to engage with the private sector. Once we are able to do that, you would see a natural development. Finally, the ethnic diversity. Ethnic diversity means that we must know our country. We must love our country. We must travel around our country. There are many of us who don't know our country. We're now talking about flying the Nigerian domestic flights and, of course, a national carrier for Nigeria. But I'm sure as patriotic Nigerians, if those of us in this room can begin to travel around Nigeria to fly the Nigerian flag, we will inculcate a new sense of belief in our country. So if you agree with what I'm saying, please raise your Nigerian flag wherever it is and promise, fly it. No, don't just raise the wood. Raise the flag and fly it. As true Nigerians who believe in your country, who will fly the domestic airlines and the national carrier, and who will commit themselves to the service of this nation. Fly your flags with pride. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. May I now call on the Honorable Minister of Information to please come and give the concluding remarks. Honorable Minister, sir.
I told you, I said today would be a very bumper harvest.
You can see from justice to culture and tourism and national orientation and to aviation, the last 2 years have recorded landmarks for our country. Please be with me. The last 2 years have recorded landmarks. Take justice, which often the layman on the street will not know much what is happening. You can see that in this period, there has been reformation of laws. The Freedom of Information Act has guidelines issued, and reports are being given to the National Assembly on how government is implementing the Freedom of Information Act. A new era of open governance is here in our country. I think the Ministry of Justice deserves really real claps to what they are doing. We have a new Anti-Terrorism Act which has just been unveiled, and that outlaws terrorism and aligns Nigerian laws with other international laws on terrorism. This again is a landmark to secure our country. Judgment debt management by the Ministry of Justice. So that is great achievement for our country, and it tells you clearly that the Ministry of Justice is up and doing to secure our country, to ensure that our democracy is law governed and that the rule of law remains the norm throughout this period. We thank you so much for what you have done for this country. Now, the Ministry of Aviation, I'm not sure we need really clearly, the Ministry of Aviation in the last 2 years has done things that were not done in the previous 30 years, which is the truth we are facing today. Now, the tragedy of Diana has been turned into opportunities to completely renew the air safety standards of the Nigerian aviation industry. And she said 95% of the safety issues that arose have been accomplished by the Ministry of Aviation. So today, you have new meteorological instruments, you have new aviation landing instruments, you have 100% total radar coverage of the Nigerian airspace. Now these are landmarks, and again, the safety standards now in our airports cannot be compared, or rather, is non-parallel. There is nowhere you go in Africa today that you have similar instruments that now operate to give aviation in our country great safety for travelers. But over and above this, 11 new international airport terminals coming, completely new to be built between now and 2015. Then, is it 5 or 11? New terminal. 6 is 13 new perishable cargo airports or terminals. All these are coming in to grab in agriculture in rural areas to export. Now, these are terms and structures we never knew in aviation before. Then, to add to all this, she said she was going to lead this nation with a new, strong, capable private sector national carrier that will compare with any other national carrier in the world. Now, this is the story of aviation. Now, the 11 airports that have been completely remodeled, she says between now and 2015, the other old airports are going to join the queue. So that wherever you travel in Nigeria, you will have airports that have space and comfort for passengers. And lastly, she has just unveiled a passenger's bill of rights, where you can indeed, if you are delayed in an airport, that will be cash backed by the airline that you have already bought ticket to travel with. Now, this is going to quicken, and align our own aviation practices with global practices. So, as I told you in the beginning, aviation is one of the greatest stories of Goodluck Jonathan's administration, and it can only get better as we move on. And all this has been brought on board with the new vision, new figure of Princess Stella, the new Minister of Aviation, who has done so much in this sector. We thank you and we congratulate you. Now, coming to culture, look at that advert. fascinating Nigeria. Look at the beauty of your country, our country. Now, if you watch those clips, the tendency for you is to begin to think they came from foreign lands. I can tell you each of those scenes was captured here in our country. And with this development, we must show patriotism. Nigerians like to travel abroad for the flimsiest of reasons. You can have a huge population of 167 million people that continue to fuel the economy of other countries that don't even have the beauty of this country. So let us show some patriotism. Those things you are looking for outside this country, you can find them in many parts of Nigeria. And we must learn to travel to the rural areas. 100 new heritage sites already being prepared. 235 tourism sites, world sites that really are destinations have already been documented and are being developed. So what is required in this country, I believe, is a little more patriotism. Everybody, state officials, you sit in the office, somebody will bring a memo, they are going to do a workshop. I will not mention any particular country, but it will always be a workshop in neighboring countries, and the organization organizing the workshop is here in Abuja. You want to take foreign exchange, the damage you are doing to the economy, you do not know. You don't care. Now, which of those countries bring their citizens here to do workshops? Which of those countries bring citizens here to do workshops? The other part these days is new awards. And those awards are always taking place in other places except here. As a former, when I was deputy governor, I went to one of those West African countries where people were airlifting Nigerians to go and take awards. Now, we must show patriotism. This country will not develop until we do our little parts. How many of you, yesterday I was with an ambassador, he said, look, when he went to Yankari Games Reserve, he didn't believe that we had it in this country. He was shocked. I'm not even mentioning Oduah. I'm mentioning the reserves and other facilities that have continued to exist in this country. We don't go there. Some of us don't even visit our villages. We're always on the plane going to London, going to America, going to Dubai, going to South Africa. So how do we develop our own country? Clearly, this country is the destination. Unfortunately, our citizens are going to the wrong destinations, spending money and resources that are required at home from what this minister has done. Look at those clips. Look at those festivals. They look more like from the Caribbean, but they are here in Nigeria. And some of our cities today, go to Calabar, clean, neat, quiet, the kind of place you can go on holiday. Go to Oduah, even Lagos, you go to VI now, you see new structures, you see things that are happening. Every part of this country has something to show. So what are you looking for outside the borders of this country? Yes, it can be that we will not travel. But if those 40% that were mentioned spend their holidays in Nigeria, we will earn more money, our cultural artifacts will be renewed, our cultural workers will earn money, our cultures will be transformed into money-spilling machines. National orientation is already doing a lot of work in this regard. Let us all join hands to make our country a true destination in Africa, because we alone have the true authentic African cultures and stories to tell. Please come here. This is the place. I thank you and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Information. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's program. We will be reconvening here tomorrow with some other MDAs, amongst them Ministry of Defense, and we are kickstarting by 10 a.m. in the morning. So you are all cordially invited. Before we leave, the honorable ministers and their chief executives and permanent secretaries will have a group photograph at the foyer as we depart from here. So can we all now rise for the national anthem? Thank you.